Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome to EVE Talk, your weekly look at the market in EVE Online. And last week I've been able to play quite a little bit of EVE Online, and the first few tidbits on the citadels are starting to show in the game, which is pretty cool. So we have these new research components. The icon is of like a decryptor that you can find in Serpentis sites, and there's someone from Upwell that's very interested in them. It's a little bit of a competition to be able to win a few BPCs of medium citadels, and for the top donators to actually get their name to become part of the citadel. So sounds pretty good. I know that the Upwell consortium is going to give it their best, but if there's a few more people trying to compete for those top spots, that means that anyone else that wants in on the event could actually try to make some money off of all of that. So competition is always good, and CCP launched this one concerning Citadel. So let's hope it's just a start, because I'm looking forward to way more in the upcoming weeks and months when it comes to Citadel. Of course, we are here for the market, and so let's get started as always with plex. Let's see, 120. And I'm going for the no transparency. It was, I don't know, a lot of people just didn't respond to it, so I actually think most people don't mind either way. There were a few that preferred the transparency, because it gave it like more of an interactive news feed type of feel, which I agree. I also like that, but the main goal for EVE Talk is of course to inform you guys, and if there are actually people that pay close attention to the graphs, to all of the numbers, then I think it is better to present them with something that's easier to read than something that looks a little bit better. So I think for now I'm going to go with no transparency, try and keep it as informative as possible, and try to give people that actually take a look at the numbers and everything themselves as well the best possible experience. So here we go, plex 1181 almost. So plex are obviously on their way back up. The 5-day moving average crossed the 20-day moving average, and everything is starting to drag it up. A little bit of a hesitation at the very tail end, but if you look at the data point, it's pretty clear that we're slowly heading towards 1.2 billion. Volumes wise, look at that. We can actually see a little bit of a bob here, an increase in volume with the plex sales, but I think they'll slowly start to diminish, and that unfortunately I think means that we'll go back in the old dynamic, and I will see the prices going up. And then as we get closer and closer to the actual expansion, I think we'll start to see some more speculation on this, and we could actually see a move up. One thing that I've been thinking about in the last few days that could actually be pretty big is, will we see Citadel before EVE FanFest, or during or after that? That could actually have a major impact on the ability to try to drive up the price of plex, because FanFest usually also means a sale, which means some pressure on the price. But if it is before FanFest, then I think all bets could be off when it comes to plex. Of course, the multiple pilot training certificate is following suit, but going up just a little bit more slowly. I think on the plex we're already a little bit closer to 1.2 billion. But these are also going for 187, so slightly higher already for the sellers. It is of course a much smaller market. Again, you can see the clear increase in volume due to the long sale that lasted with the Frostline events, which caused a major drop here for the pilot training certificate, and there's a bobbing around at 1.1 billion. But yeah, we're back in the dynamic of increasing prices at the moment. Here's the pilot body resculpt doing its own thing, staying right around 220 million. No clear sign that that one is taking off anytime soon. So the correlation is definitely not as high between body resculpt and the others, and then plex and multiple pilots, which is like pretty much a mirror of each other. Of course, they also do the same thing. 30 days on an account for one character, or 30 days for a second character on account is pretty much the same. So it's only logical that they do the same thing. Moving on to some minerals next, which is 440. Let's start with titanium, and honestly I think things are starting to calm down here. This is a 6-month chart. You can clearly see that we are starting to just stay around 6.3 ISK on the chart here. The sellers 633, the buyers 627. 6.3 is right in the middle of that. When it comes to volumes here, we've got 500 million, or 600, 300 million, 100 million here, another 500 million here. On the buyers, 900 million, 800 million, a billion right here. So this is starting to really balance out, and I'm a little bit surprised because in the previous weeks we clearly had the demand side that was still stronger than supply, but it really does look like we're starting to find our price here, and things are stabilizing for the moment. Next up here we've got pyrite. Again, it is trying to get to 11.3 ISK. If you then take the averages right here between 11.10 and 11.5, you're right there in the middle. If it can hold on, that could be another sign of more stability in the mineral market, at least the high-sec mineral market. Let's take a look at the volumes then here. We've got a pretty big seller here at 260 million. Then here we've got 30 and another maybe 30, 60 or so being brought in the last 24 hours. For the buyers here we've got 60, another 40, another 100 here, and an older order of almost 700 million units. That is also keeping everything in check. So yeah, I think it's less out of whack, especially with this bigger sell order here of 260 million units. Then here we got another 100 million units. It's looking like this could stabilize around the current price point as well, which is an average of what we've seen in the last few months. Let's grab Mixalon next. That of course is also showing that stability, but it's been doing that for quite a while, and it's just trying to stay around 60 ISK, maybe dipping just below that now. Yeah, 59.87 for the sellers, 58.82 for the buyers. Volume wise here we're talking 100 million. And that's it really in the last 24 hours. And for the buyers here, we're talking 20, 30, another 13, another 14, another 18, another 37 right here. And then we're again 2 days old, which honestly looks pretty much in balance. So Mixalon did break 60 ISK on the way down, but I don't think it's cause for panic considering the supply demand numbers and that the other high-sec minerals seem to be stabilizing as well. So next up here we've got Isogen. This one unfortunately went way down from a top of like 127 ISK down to 105, but it looks like we're coming in for a landing here, unless that one data point is indicating that it's been broken. No, 105.67, 106 for the sellers, and then we've got 102 for the buyers. Volume wise 35 million, 15 million. Here we've got another 45 million, all of that in the last 24 hours, probably close to 100 million. On the buyer side, not that much, so that's not good news. The pressure is still on here. Isogen could go a little bit lower yet, but at least the margin here is slowly closing. 102 for the buyers, 105 to 106 for the sellers. That's only 4 ISK on a price of 100. It's not that bad, but we could land like close to 100 considering the demand side here. But I am seeing signs of stability in the high-sec mineral market. Next up here we've got Noxium finally taking off after testing the bottom 3 times in the last 6 months. We are now heading for 490 for the sellers, 485 for the buyers. I actually have some stocks of Noxium lying around that I picked up really cheaply, so I actually think that I'm gonna try and take a little bit of profit on those. Because you never know how long this is gonna last. Last time 500 ISK always seemed to be the limit, so be careful. But if it's more sustained, then that could of course be very good news for the Noxium market. And then we've got the Nozick ones. Here is Zydrine slowly coming up from 900 to 1000 ISK. Sellers 1000, buyers 987. So it looks like we overshot just a little bit on the way down here as well. But I think it's also clear that there's less volatility in this movement up, in this slight correction here, than there was on the way down. And Megasite is probably doing something very similar, exactly going from 1000 to 1100 ISK. decently slowly, I think. This is a movement that we could have seen coming, and the gap here is closing pretty rapidly as well. 11.20 for the buyers and 11.68 for the sellers. That's not that big of a margin anymore. There's quite a bit of action, so people are buying and people are selling for the Zydrine market as well. Full page of new buy orders, not that many sell orders. Obviously that means increases in price, so people want at least 1,000 ISK for their Zydrine. That seems to be just the case, but I don't think we're in for like a shot to the moon again for the Nosek minerals for now. So yes, I would say mineral market in general, actually, Noxium crawling back a little bit. That's really the only one. All of the other ones are stabilizing. So let's take a look at the impact on Tech 1 ships. 1020. Honestly, I don't think that we'll see this come through, this stability come through right now, because it always needs a little bit of time for the mineral market to do its thing in the Tech 1 market. So here is the Armageddon, for instance, jumping up to 214 million ISK, which is quite a bit higher all of a sudden, but we are finally seeing some Armageddons coming to the market. Or am I not? Oh, I'm not in the Armageddon tab, that's why I saw such big numbers. But yep, look at that. There's just a few sell orders. One came in like a little bit over a day ago with 81 units, but they're trying to sell them for 215. Then it's almost 220. For Armageddons. Now they do cost more than the other battleships to produce, but we're still in pretty high price territory, and just virtually no supply of the Armageddon. I pretty much see this as one guy that's bringing his Armageddons to the market here. Very weird to see this tab stay this low in numbers. Next up here we've got the Caracal going back up to 11.8 million, but then already stalling. So I think that yeah, 232 and 20, we are seeing more numbers coming in here in a response to the increase in price. So I would say supply is starting to look healthy, and of course this is going to stop going up. Next up here we've got the Dominics. Did try to go up towards 215, but being shut down already. People saw that opportunity, and you can see the response here. Half a front page of new Dominics in the last 24 hours, 60 of them right here as the latest order. That's of course going to put some pressure on the Dominics to come back in line to an average of around 200 million. I think it's in the cards. Next up here we've got the Drake, clearly stabilizing towards 53 million. Supply wise, look at that. That's definitely pretty good to keep a more stable price. We're still seeing a few coming in the last 24 hours as well. So the Drake could, I think, stabilize at 53 or overshoot it on the way down, because 52 of them right here is actually quite a bit. And then we could be on our way up a little bit once again. But 54 probably as an average for the Drake, I think is very much possible at the moment. Next up we've got the Mauler, also slight bump up, but we're already going back down. Supply wise, well, there's not that many orders, but if you look at these top orders, the latest ones, there's 36 of them. So people do bring in enough Maulers, I think, to keep it from jumping up as we saw like 3 months ago. Next up here we've got the Myrmidon. That one is also stabilizing a little bit at around 54 million ISK, which I think is actually a normal price for a Myrmidon, although we have been quite a bit higher than that in the last 3-4 months. Right now we seem to be finally stabilizing, at least here. That means that we have decent numbers here as well. Latest orders, let's see, almost half a front page, including 56 Myrmidons being brought to the market. That's going to help stabilize things, I think. So hopefully indeed we'll start to see less volatility if the minerals can maintain a longer period of stable prices. I think we could start to see more and more of these Tech 1 ships start to stabilize as well. Next up here we've got the Oracle, actually breaking the mold here and going down towards 75 million ISK. So really trying to test its average here, but I think what the hell? Yeah, we're below 80 million on the chart. Someone must have just come in to buy all of the oracles below 86 million. And then here the new ones coming in at 86 million. So this is the overreaction that I talked about. Here we can see that the oracle, which I think in the last few weeks had really big supplies, you could scroll down quite a little bit, was showing signs of stability, but the production was just too high. And then we saw the response here in price dipping below 80 million. The response is Nullsic Alliance says, okay, I want an oracle fleet, we'll buy everything below 86 million because we see this opportunity to buy them more cheaply than they've been in the last 4 or 5 months. And now we will of course shoot up towards 85 million here once again. And if this gap cannot be plugged anytime soon, we could actually go again in higher territory. So this is of course the reaction that can happen if too much is being produced and the downward trend starts to break the averages as well. So it works both ways. Next up here we've got the Raven. Could be a very similar situation. We went below 185 and as a response now we're actually going up decently sharply, and indeed all Ravens below 200 million are gone from the market. So a Raven fleet could be speculation, could be a Nullsic Alliance, but someone came in, saw the opportunity for the Ravens and said, I'm actually going to pick all of these up. So it is pretty interesting to see this happen again when the Raven was really starting to go below its average. That would have probably been reasonable for the Raven market, or just test it even. Next up here we got the Stabber trying to get towards 11 million. Is it succeeding? 12 million for the sellers, 10.3 for the buyers. Supply wise, well, we at least have a decent amount of orders in the last 24 hours because the rest of them not that many. But it is still trying. I think if people can keep bringing in Stabbers at around 12 million, we'll start to see some more stability. Next up here we've got the Tornado, went as low as 72 million, went up towards 76, but that's already being stopped as well. So the Tornado decently well supplied. You can see that there's a good amount of them. That's going to help stabilize things. Almost 2/3 of a front page, less than 24 hours old, which means decent numbers as well. So the Tornado is set to stabilize towards 74 million, I think. Next up we've got the Typhoon, very similar situation. So you can see that the Typhoon tried to go up to 194. Then we went back down to 178, which was apparently pretty damn low. We shot up to 194. One thing to keep in mind though is that I would put the let's see, 178 to 194. So the increase here, the jump up, is only of like 16 million, which is less than 10%. I still don't think this move up here is actually something that you could have made a speculative trade on. So I actually think that's not what's happening here. You can see that we're just empty of Typhoons. People bought everything. Probably if we look at some of probably below 186.5 million. So this is not like individual traders that can try and grab a little bit in on this. This is just really big bulk purchases at what they consider to be low enough prices. We get this jump up, and of course now the response will start to come in on this. So we are at 185. Which is right here. You can clearly see that the supply was still being snagged up, but now I think we'll start to give up and we'll start to stabilize here as more Typhoons come to the market. But we went pretty damn low for the Typhoons, and the response was, I'm just gonna buy all of them. That of course leaves traders on their hunger unless they somehow have a few Typhoons lying around. But I think for less than 10% in volatility, and this on the only Tech 1 ship amongst all of them that I've checked, it's just not really worth the risk, I think. Next up here we get the Vexor. Look at that, finally someone that does show some stability. The supply will be pretty decent, and we've got big orders here, 184, 113, 28 of them still coming in. So the Vexor looks like it's going to stabilize unless all of a sudden it would become something that becomes the meta, a Vexor fleet could be something Gnostic Alliances want to field, then I don't think this one is going to go anywhere anytime soon. So yeah, Take One ships, pretty interesting how the market dynamics do seem to still be functioning quite well. High prices tend to drive more industry there, but from time to time people just produce too many of those goods, price goes low enough for an alliance to say, okay, time to strike, we're gonna make another fleet because we can pick more than half of them off at a very low price, and then we have those big spikes, but they stay pretty limited in scope. Less than 10% I don't think is speculation worthy, and that's just the opportunity for people that are actually producing those goods to bring those to the market and plug those gaps, which tends to happen pretty quickly. So take two, let's say 20 minutes, because we're right around that, and let's see if we can actually spot some real trade opportunities here. Basilisk, not bad. Look at that, just probably 3 weeks ago or a bit less than that, we were below 180 million. Look where the chart is shooting up towards 230 million, so that's 50 million increase on a purchase of 180. That is obviously, those are the trades. This is where you can make some money, and you can see that it's not a complete buyout of the market. There are still basilisks here that have been brought to the market and that have been here for several days as well. So this is pretty good, right? If you did buy on this dip right here, then selling basilisk at the moment is going to make you a really nice profit. Thank you, Basilisk, showing that the Tech 2 market is still alive for trades, because this is definitely not bad. Next up here, we've got Cerberus. Again, I did call this bottom of 175. That was obviously a really low point for the Cerberus in the last 6 months. And then we shot up towards 215. So from 175 to 215, that is 40 million increase in price, way more than 10%. That was a good trade to make as well. Of course, at some point, the good times end. And so now we're only at 200 million for the Cerberus, which is still okay. You're still in the 10% territory. But of course, your really good sell opportunity is past now. And it's you have to decide if you still want to pull the trigger or if you want to wait for the next opportunity. Next up here, we've got the Guardian going from 130 to above 145. So again, these three waves here have all been above 10% in price differences, giving you decent trade opportunities right here. So Guardian, again, I would like to see it slightly higher, like this one was perfect, but at least they're in the last 3 months, we've had 3 opportunities to both buy them below 130 and sell them above 145. And so that, if you can do that with a couple of trades, then you'll make some money on that. Next up here, we've got the Hound. Okay, stealth bombers also breaking the mold. I was starting to worry on them. You can clearly still see the pattern here for the Hound that was in lower and lower volatility. So the peaks here were from 21, then 19, lower and lower. And then the bottoms were higher and higher and higher. All of them stabilizing at 17 million. But look at that, big jump up here, 23.5 million. Hounds were actually a good idea to purchase. I'm not sure if I said that for more of a medium-term trade, you could maybe pick up some hounds below 17 million. But at the moment here, look at that. If you can sell them close to 20 million, I think they'll be snagged up pretty quickly for anyone that actually wants to fly a Hound. And then we're talking more than 10% easy. So Hound, first show of instability, of potential for traders in the covered ops stealth bombers. Awesome to see all of these showing live in the Tech 2 market. Wow, it's been such a long time. As you can clearly see, this pattern started in September, so since the summer I was really starting to see more and more stability here. It is so good to finally see some more volatility in the Tech 2 market. The Ishtar had been trying, actually, and I was really surprised by that because Ishtar was being hit by the nerf bat so much, but it really had been trying. You could have bought them close to 155, I think, close to 160 definitely, and now it's worked its way up to 185. It's not as volatile as what we're seeing here in the Hound, as what we're seeing here in the Basilisk, but For a slower trade, this was actually not bad, with lows of 160 and then here at 175 and now 185. Not bad. Next up here we've got the Manticore. It also tried right here, bottom of 20 million, went up to 26, 25, something like that. And so there was definitely a trade in this move up. Again, not that volatile, but showing some signs that volatility might be making its way back. Now, of course, the Manticore on its way back down. If you manage to purchase them close to 20 million, you're probably still doing a decent trade, but the real opportunity, of course, the real volatility is already over. Next up, Nemesis, not bad. I definitely called this bottom of 17 million. I mean, for a medium-term trade, that would have been pretty good. We are back up to 20.7 million. So from that's like an easy 3 million. That's definitely more than 10% as well. Nemesis showing signs of volatility as well. Very good news. The Nemesis was not really clearly showing that pattern of more and more stability. It just went down to a bottom of below 17 million over the course of 6 months. There weren't really that many opportunities to trade in it. The general trend was down, so it was always pretty risky, but this move up is good news, I think. Next up here, the Oneros. The Oneros is one of those that actually stayed alive in after the summer, you know, bottoms 140, tops of 175. That's not bad. 2 sell opportunities, several buy opportunities. Now we went back down here, but this one is just a slow move, and it was just at the bad time. I was really starting to worry that even the Oneros was starting to stabilize, but I think it could just be the Oneros at the moment. Of course, is right in between its peak and its bottom, so I would not make a move either way on the Oneros, but it's what has managed to keep us going in the last few months. Now that volatility is back in some of the other ships, it's okay to not have a good week on the Oneros. Next up here we get the Purifier. That's a pretty difficult chart to read because of the big volume bars, but we went below 18 million, probably below 17 million as well, shot up to 22, and now we are on our way back down. So still, for the purifiers you bought at like 17 million, you can still try to sell them, but the opportunity is over. At least some volatility is back. You can clearly see that pattern here again, where the tops were just going to go lower and lower, and it was just stabilizing in the 16 to 18 million band. Finally, that's been broken. Scimitar, a double touch on the bottom of 120, currently going for 145 million. Not bad, definitely a trade that could have been made, definitely a low point for 6 months, so I do think that I will have called this as an opportunity to buy, and yeah, shot up. So again, not bad. Scimitar showing some signs as well, and even the Vengeance here going from 19 million towards 22 million. The question is has there been an announcement from CCP? Not that I know of. There are still decent volumes here, so we're not talking complete buyouts of these ships either. So I actually think that, yeah, there's been some speculation, some movements in the Tech 2 market, and these have produced quite a few sell opportunities this week. Awesome to see the Tech 2 market alive like this. Next up, Tech 3 market, 2740. Let's take a look at the destroyers first. So here's the Confessor. Look at this 6-month chart from 35 towards 70 million. The Confessor, despite decent volumes, is still slowly trending up. So I think it's just the popularity of the tactical destroyers that is actually causing this to happen here. Here's the Hecate, went up to 17 million, probably a little bit too violently, is now stabilizing at around 60. We still see decent volumes and below 60 million, but if you look at the 6-month chart, the trend is obviously up, which I think is all a testament to how good these ships are and how popular they are at the moment. But the Hecate gap has been plugged. I think that the Confessor gap could get plugged pretty soon here as well. So we could start to go down on this one anytime soon. Here is the Jackdaw chart, just went down from 65 as well, and decent volumes here too, so that's looking quite alright. But again, 6-month trend clearly up, and then we've got this Vipul here going up to 70, and then finally the gap is being plugged here as well. but the 6-month chart. So the tactical destroyers, honestly, they went to a very low bottom. I think CCP did change something in the composition to make them a bit more expensive to produce, but they are just really good ships, very popular ships, and as a result, yeah, 60 to 70 million for a tactical destroyer at the moment is what you're paying for them. And there is decent supply, but it happens from time to time that that the market dries up and that we have big spikes of volatility in them. But for this week, honestly, there's decent numbers of almost all of them on the markets, except the Confessor is probably the lowest one, but it is also the highest price. So I actually think that there will be a lot of Confessors coming to the market in the upcoming week or so. But decent volumes, good price, I think, very popular ships. I think that's the state of the advanced destroyers. Next up, we've got the cruisers. So let's start off with the Legion here, stabilized at 180 for a while, now shooting back up, but still decent volume. So it shot up to 200 million, pretty close to that, but it's going to be stopped pretty soon, I think, here, this increase in price. So maybe we're starting to see a decrease in volatility in the cruisers. I think it's possible. At least we're not empty of Legions, which during the time of these really big jumps up, we were completely empty of these ships, but that doesn't seem to be the case, at least here for the Legion. Let's check out the Loki. Decent volumes, 186, 187. So again, went up just a little bit, but nothing too volatile, and decent volumes on the market. Next up, Proteus. That looks pretty good as well, despite being 200 million. Yeah, Proteus went up, it's stabilizing at 200, decent volumes as well. And then finally we have the Tengu, went up to 200, it's stabilizing here already as well. So there's decent numbers on the market. It's been quite a while since we've had this, a browsable stack of Tech Tree ships. In almost all of them, the Confessor is the one exception, but I think if the industrial potential can keep this up, then we will start to see more stability in the Tech Tree market, as I was starting to see the first sign of that in the last week, in last week's EVE talk. So it could come out to become true. We'll see, unless the alliances have such big coffers that they can even make moves on something like, let's see, which one is actually down a little bit. Well, not that many of them. Yeah, on maybe the Hecate, you know, if an alliance has such big coffers that they can pull the trigger on anything below 65 for the Hecate, for instance, then we could really start to see more stability in the Tech Tree market. It's going to be interesting to see if that actually happens. And then finally, for the extra product, 32 minutes, we're actually closing in on 1100 on downtime. So I'm actually, yeah, I feel a little bit of pressure to do this one pretty smoothly. But a request, I've actually read your comment several weeks in a row. I just completely forgot about it by the time I made EVE talk, but there was a request to check out the worm. So I will check out the worm here. The 6-month chart, starting at almost 80 million, 70 million on maybe the averages, now went way down to 55 million. So I would say that, nope, faction frigates, the worm at least down for 6 months at not the lowest point. It went as low as below 55 million, worked its way back up here, but the volumes here seem more than decent as well. Look at that. We even have another 13 of them coming in the last 24 hours. There's decent supply of them, decent demand of them as well. So I think the worm is trying to hold on, but the 6-month trend has clearly been down on this faction frigate. And so I'll quickly add to that because it makes me interested. Faction frigates, let's take a quick look here at some other pirate faction frigates. Here's the Astero, went up here. What could actually happen is increase in activity here maybe. We've actually seen bigger login numbers, so maybe the Frostline events brought people back to EVE or brought new people to EVE with a chance to find like a plex in some of these sites. It could really have galvanized some of the players, and of course an Astero is something that new players, I think, that have any interest in in exploration will actually go to. So that could maybe explain this increase in price here. Just a bit more activity, more demand for them, and we're in the final 15 minutes here. Let's check out the Cruer. Actually, we're pretty stable over 6 months. Of course, Cruer I don't think is flown that often. But big spike up to 68 million, so nothing like the Worm chart. Here's the Daredevil, actually at a high point for the last 6 months. Started at 54, goes up to 64 million, so it looks like the Daredevil is actually pretty popular at the moment. Would have been a good opportunity actually. If you could have bought them for 54, you can now sell them for 64. That's not too bad. Next up here we get the Dremel. Yeah, ooh, look at that big spike up here. Definitely an increase in interest. So here's the Garmer. Ooh, interesting. The Garmer started at 72, went as low as 58 million, now shoots back up, and we're back at the average for 6 months. And then here we've got the Succubus, 50 million to 55 million with a big spike up to 70 million. So there's actually quite a bit of movement, and the Worm is actually the biggest loser of the faction, of the pirate faction frigates right here, because it is at a pretty low point for the 6 months. All of the others have either managed to stay stable with some speculative periods in between, or are actually at a pretty high point in the last 6 months. So the Worm apparently lost some popularity. Pretty interesting, and thank you very much, of course, for the suggestion. I always try to take them, I just sometimes manage to forget somehow. For now, that's going to be it for this Eve Talk, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.